Okay. Am I audible? I hope I am. Okay, screen is visible and we are up and running. Okay, let's respect the clock and start. Um, Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar. I'll try to help you answer the question, is your debt out of control? Technical debt creates ever-changing risks that are sometimes forgotten until the worst happens. Very rarely I have encountered technical debt in the risk registers. Why? I don't know. It's one of the most powerful project derailers. Maybe it's unappreciated or hard to measure, or just there isn't enough knowledge about it. But let's explore the topic. Let me just check. Yep, everything is working. If we haven't met before, hi, I'm Jan Matus. I'm passionate about software building the right way and helping teams navigate real-world engineering trade-offs. I've worked across startups, mid-sized companies, and enterprises, holding roles from software engineer to senior principal architect. No matter the company size, one truth remained constant. Technical debt is inevitable, but it doesn't have to be disaster. Today, I'll help you understand how technical debt slows team down and what to do about it, what are the common myths and mistakes that make it worse, and few practical strategies to track, manage, and reduce debt effectively. Let's dive in. One reason I started my own business is because I kept seeing the same issue, technical debt, silently growing until it caused real damage. Across all kinds of teams, no matter the company size, the risk was always there, but unfortunately it was often ignored. I wanted to help teams spot it early and take back control. That's what today is about. So ask yourself honestly, is your debt out of control? If we haven't connected yet, this is where I share practical tips and stories on technical debt, software architecture, and tech leadership. I post regularly on Instagram and LinkedIn, so if you like this kind of content and you want more after this webinar, feel free to follow me. It's a good way to keep learning and stay in the loop about upcoming webinars and new materials. I help project managers and technical leaders work better together by making technical debt feasible, manageable, and less painful to deal with. Most of what I do is about bridging the gap between business goals and engineering reality. My vision is simple. I want to help more teams build software that lasts, not just fast launches, but systems that scale without burning out people or collapsing under hidden complexities. And everything I share, courses, webinars, content, is built on 4 core values. Clarity, because vague guidance helps no one. Collaboration, because PMs and engineers need to speak the same language. Efficiency, because every team is already stretched. And practicality, because ideas are useless if they can't be applied today. Just so you know what to expect, I aim to make these webinars genuinely valuable, practical, and worth your time. The last session got a 5-star rating from participants, which I'm proud of, but more importantly, it tells me that this format works. I'll do my best to deliver the same clarity and relevance today, and I hope you'll let me know if I succeed. But don't just take my word for it. Here's what few folks from previous session had to say. What I loved hearing is that even experienced developers and tech leads walked away with fresh insight and clarity. And that's exactly what I'm aiming for today. Something that is immediately useful, no matter where you're starting from. So if you've been thinking, okay, this makes sense, but how do I actually start fixing it? Here's how can I help. I offer a few ways to support you depending on what you need. Free webinars like this one for exploring different angles of technical depth and software health. Learning materials like ebooks, infographics, and on-demand courses to go deeper and work through problems on your own time. And for those of you facing something urgent and complex, I also offer consulting and mentoring where we can dig into your specific case and build a real plan. On learn.janmatus.com, I've gathered everything I built to help people like you deal with technical debt head on. You'll find my upcoming ebook, my on-demand mini course, and bonus resources to help you start identifying and managing debt across architecture, communication processes, and more. It's designed to be clear, actionable, and practical, so you don't just understand the problem, you actually know how to tackle it. All right, let's jump in. Quick heads up, this session is being recorded and I'll make it available afterwards as long as the recording goes smoothly. If it doesn't, then I'll record it again. Anyway, I'll make sure that you got the access to the key takeaways of this webinar. And also there is slight delay in the live stream, so if you type something in the chat, it might take me a few seconds to see. Okay, now let's get into it, and I hope that by the end of the session, you'll see technical depth a little differently than you did 15 minutes ago. Before we dive into details, let me quickly tell you what we're going to cover today and while you want to stick around until the end. First, I'll show you the worst that could happen, failed engineering project example. Next, we'll explore what technical debt is and how it impacts your projects. I'll share the 5 biggest myths around technical debt and how engineers and PMs often accidentally make things worse. Trust me, you'll definitely want to avoid these common mistakes. Then there's checklist to help you assess yourself, and then I'll share practical tips on how to identify, track, and manage technical debt in your everyday work. Before we wrap up, I want to give you a sneak peek of something really useful. At the end, I'll tell you about the materials where you can learn even more. And who is this webinar for? Anyone involved in creating software, project managers, developers, analytics, tech leads, architects, facilitators, and testers. So basically, if you're involved in software development, technical debt is relevant to you. Let me be clear about the goal of this session. It's not to overwhelm you with technical jargon, and 1 hour is nowhere near enough to give you full knowledge about technical debt. It's just a quick course and a checklist dump. The real goal is to help you recognize the signs that your technical debt might already be out of the control, and to give you language to describe it, frame it, and start doing something about it. So if you walk away from this session thinking, we're already deeper into technical debt than we thought. That's a win for me. Because the first step to fixing technical debt is to see it clearly. Yeah, one of my favorite cautionary tales is Ariane 5 rocket. I'm really into space, so the example is from this world. 30 seconds into the maiden launch, the rocket self-destructed, not because of the hardware failure, but because the engineers reused software from Ariane 4, where the flight dynamics were completely different. And basically 64-bit value was incorrectly converted to 16-bit, causing buffer overflow and guidance system fed rocket nonsense data. And that's $370 million gone only because of line of code that no one checked. And the scary part, these surprises are happening even if you're not noticing them yet. They are behind the scenes. Technical debt is accumulating right now, silently setting you up for similar disaster. Have you ever wondered why it happens? There is a big chance that this is all connected with unmanaged technical debt. That's what we are talking about when we say technical debt isn't just in your code base. It's in your assumptions, processes, and also habits. And the goal of this webinar is to help you spot your own Ariane 5 moment before it happens. Ignoring technical debt has very real consequences. Let's break down exactly what's at stake when we let it grow. First, we have slower product development. The more technical debt you accumulate, the harder it becomes to write new code. Why? Because instead of focusing on building new features, developers must reverse engineer through layers of messy code. Every new functionality requires first understanding and then working around existing limitations, which obviously takes extra time. Very related to that is slower bug fixes and more regressions. Debugging a depth-ridden codebase is a nightmare. Even fixing simple bug can take forever because it's hard to pinpoint the root cause. And when you do fix something, there's a high chance that it will break something else, which brings us to square one. And let's not forget the human factor. Developers want to build new things, move the product forward, and not consistently wrestle with legacy bugs. Technical debt often translates to lower quality product, more production bugs, missing promised features, and delays. And users will notice. Customers will switch if your competition ships updates faster and delivers a smoother experience. So when the technical debt reaches critical mass, it can cripple a company's ability to grow. So imagine a system that can't accept new users or adding new features takes ages. So if the technology can't keep up, then the business will stop. And if you're recognizing any of those symptoms, you're already behind. The longer you wait, the more it will cost you to pay it. And symptoms will not just go away. They will grow like mold slowly, and then suddenly they are everywhere. So every day you delay, the problem grows, and every quick fix you add adds more fuel to the fire. Yeah, so what you're dealing is the technical debt, and here's the real problem. Most people don't even know how much of it they have. They are running blind. And the truth is that it starts with something very small and easy to overlook. Technical debt is accumulating even as you watch this presentation. Every new feature built on shaky foundations only worsens the problem. Just look at the picture. Do you think that somebody really made a decision to do it this way? It probably started with one quickly added cable under time pressure, then another, and then another, because it's messy anyway, until nobody knew what was going on, and each change became painfully expensive. And without clearly stated product vision or long-term plan, it's easy to miss or forget that this server rack needs to be expanded in 3 months. And as a result of a couple of shortcuts, we are left with the mess that nobody wants to touch. It's the same with the software projects. Let's break down the story. First cable was added because of business pressure, tight deadline, urgent demo, or MVP, and fear of losing customer. Under pressure, it's very easy to say, yeah, let's just do whatever works now. We'll clean it up later. We skip tests, ignoring best practices, and add quick fixes. Then there was lack of owner and long-term planning. Nobody monitored what was going on, and why it is important to keep this rack clean. Without long-term vision and direction, every change, even done to the standards, potentially adds more chaos. And at last, there is the fear of changing the legacy code. Now, imagine that you are the one tasked with adding another cable. Would you clean up this mess, or would you just add it? And now imagine that you are under time pressure. Someone is saying that previous cable took 20 minutes to plug in and threatening to escalate you because you're not meeting this expectation. Yeah, the scary part is that debt is accumulating right now, even as you listen to this presentation. Now let's explore the actual consequences. Technical debt is often misunderstood. People think it's just a bad code, but it's far more than that. The problem isn't just the code, it's architecture, communication, outdated dependencies, neglected processes. Basically, it's all the trade-offs you make to get something done quickly, knowing you'll have to pay it later. It's like using credit card. You get the benefits now, but you'll eventually have to pay it back with interest. And just like financial debt, the interest compounds. The more you ignore it, the worse it gets. Most people only realize the extent of their technical debt when it's too late to fix it without tearing everything down. And most importantly, it's the lack of clear strategy to deal with it. I covered different types of technical debt and how to recognize them in detail in my ebook, which is upcoming. But here's what you need to know right now. If you feel like your projects are slowing down for no obvious reason, technical debt is very likely the cause. Before we proceed, let's answer the question, is all debt bad? Yeah, let me know in the chat. Okay, let me answer that. No, not all debt is negative. Sometimes teams take intentional debt where we knowingly accept a shortcut to meet business goals, like quickly developing an MVP to meet critical deadlines. It's a fair trade to gain short-term development speed. The problem is not just taking the shortcuts, it's thinking that you can ignore the consequences forever. And on the other hand of the end of the scale, there is unintentional debt, where you don't even know, perhaps due to lack of knowledge, that you're taking on the debt. The real danger is not knowing how much debt you're taking on, and you cannot manage what you cannot see. The effects of both debts are similar, but the way that you deal with them differ. The key is to make as much debt as possible intentional because it's easiest to track. You and your team can do that by educating yourself about debt, your product vision, and best engineering practices. Um, in total, there are nearly 10 types of technical debt, all with different mechanisms to cope with, but I won't dive deeply into each type right now. But if you're interested in a detailed breakdown, I will cover all those thoroughly in my ebook, or we can discuss your situation during my consultations. Now, let's explore 5 biggest myths. As promised, this is a quick preview of the 5 biggest myths about technical debt. Many teams fall into those traps, and yes, PMs and engineers contribute to the chaos. I'll briefly touch upon those now. But if you'd like a slightly deeper dive, there are some bonus materials included in this webinar that expand on this topic, and make sure that you check it out. Okay, myth number 1. Technical debt is just bad code. In reality, technical debt includes all consequences of rash decisions, poor architecture, outdated dependencies, no tests, and no process deficiencies. Myth number 2, if it works, it's not technical debt. In reality, just because something works doesn't mean it's sustainable. Hidden debt accumulates in performance bottlenecks, scaling limitations, security risks, and tight coupling. Myth number 3, we'll fix it later. In reality, later never comes until you plan it. Companies often promise refactoring after the next release or when we have time, but it rarely happens without debt owner. Myth number 4, technical debt is always a mistake. In reality, some technical debt is strategic. Teams intentionally take on debt to ship faster, and the problem isn't the debt itself, it's how we repay it. Myth number 5, engineers own technical debt. No, technical debt is business problem, not just an engineering problem. Project managers, executives, and stakeholders contribute to it by prioritizing speed over sustainability. Everyone needs to own the debt, not just developers. So how do we accidentally make things worse? Right now, you can probably come up with quite few ways in which we can contribute. You can write them in the chat. Make sure to check the bonus materials to see if you are correct. Okay, armed with that knowledge, let's assess how bad it is in your project. Do you know how to manage technical debt to decrease project risks? You get 1 point for each confirmation. So we have 4 questions here. Share your score in the chat, and extended checklist is available in the bonus materials. So if you want to explore that in more detail, go ahead. Okay, what are the signs that you can't continue with current debt management approach? Here are some warnings that you're reaching that point. First of all, developers or engineers react to every new feature request with frustration and skepticism. By the time your team is stuck saying no to new features, probably your technical debt already spiraled out of the control, or you're just not very nice to them. No, that's a joke. Then time. Adding new module takes as much time or even more as building new application from scratch. This is a major red flag. So you've reached the breaking point where your code base is no longer providing any advantage over fresh start. Instead of accelerating development, your platform is slowing it down. Excuse me. Third signal is fixing even a minor bug takes unreasonable or random amount of time. Sure, every system has some tricky areas, but if every bug turns into multi-day or multi-week fight, that's a serious problem. Then there's one we've mentioned. Fixing one issue constantly breaks something else. This is probably the most frustrating symptom of severe technical debt. You fix bug A, test pass, you deploy, boom, then bug B appears. You patch bug B and now bug C emerges, or even bug A is back. And all those issues result in noticeable drop in team's productivity. So if you feel like you're standing still, where every new feature takes forever and every bug is nightmare, then there is chance that technical debt is the reason. The only question left is, will you act now or will you wait until complete overhaul is your only option? Not only in the code, but also in the specification, perhaps documentation, testing, and most importantly, processes. But be careful to perform a thorough evaluation to determine the right approach. Full rewrite, major refactor, or perhaps iterative. I cannot provide any guidance right now. Yeah, look out. Even if you think that you're managing your debt, chances are that you're only patching the symptoms. The real problem is underneath. The hard to swallow truth is is that refactoring or rewriting the system will not solve the problem. It will just provide temporary alleviation. We must look for the root cause. Why would we end up with technical debt? Examine your processes. Do they acknowledge the existence of debt? It's monitoring. They need to pay it back. Do you have metrics that show how deep your project is in debt? Does the debt has owner who advocates its repayment, or is it swept under the rug each time it appears? Without fixing all those issues, their levels. Without fixing all those issues, the levels or risks will remain unknown. You cannot manage something that you do not measure. Tip: if you decide to take a shortcut, like saying, okay, let's do a quick fix now and improve later, make a note that you just added to your technical debt. Acknowledge this decision, because it's important to officially put it in your technical debt backlog. Sometimes just having the awareness and process to acknowledge it makes you think twice about whether the shortcut is worth it. By the way, if you'd like to use ready-made template for tracking technical debt, complete with categories, priorities, and best practices, you'll find one in my ebook. I've compiled useful tables and frameworks you can use immediately in your own project. Yeah. The hardest part is to start. The longer you wait, the more expensive and disruptive fixing your technical debt will be. Waiting until you feel the pain means it's already too late for small measures. The problem with most technical debt management strategies is that they are either too vague or too rigid. And here's the reality: refactoring won't fix it. You need a structured, continuous approach adapted to your project needs. So, first, audit, track, and evaluate. Before fixing anything, you need to understand the scope of your technical debt. This isn't just about the code, it's about processes, architecture dependencies, and more. You need a system to track it because you cannot What you cannot measure, you cannot fix. Then prioritize debt. Not all debt is worth settling. Not every piece of technical debt needs to be paid off. And you have to focus on what's causing the worst pain, whether it's slowing down development, causing security risks, or blocking scalability. Balance new features, bugs, and refactoring. You can't just stop building new features to clean up old messes, but if you keep pushing technical debt aside, you'll eventually hit a wall where new development becomes impossible. And lastly, educate yourself and others. The whole team needs to understand why technical debt matters and how to deal with it. And this is where my mini course, ebook, and consultation packages can help you to do that quickly and effectively. Uh, but there is a catch. Knowing this is not enough. You need the tools, templates, and strategies to actually implement it. And that's why I created resources to help you take the action. A team without a policy for managing technical debt is like credit card holder with no spending limit. You can keep spending and spending and spending without immediate consequences until the day that massive bill arrives. That's why it's worth implementing certain policies in advance to establish structured approach to handling technical debt. Here's what can be done at the organization level. Define when debt can be taken and who must approve it. Sometimes debt is unavoidable. For example, when the business says we need to add something last minute or we'll lose client. Okay, in that case, we consciously decide to take shortcut, but it's important to have clear rules for this. Also, define and monitor KPIs. KPIs that impact quality and stability. KPIs are useful tools for checking the state of our project. But let's define which metrics we want to track to detect when technical debt starts causing harm. If you need a step-by-step guide on establishing such policies in your company, check out my ebook. There's an entire chapter dedicated to implementing technical debt policies and procedures. Okay, feedback time. What have you learned today? Yep. You've seen the symptoms, you felt the frustration, now it's time to act before your technical debt spirals out of control. You can register for bonus resources on janmatos.com/subscribe. Subscribe to my newsletters for news about upcoming webinars and connect with me on Instagram or LinkedIn for more insight. Also, I would love if you could rate my webinar at survey.janmatos.com. And if you're serious about fixing your technical debt, my mini course, ebook, and consultation packages are the proven paths to clarity. If you found this session valuable and you want to explore practical, hands-on strategies in similar interactive way, I'm creating mini video course where I dive deeper into debt management strategies and stakeholder communication. Everything is presented in clear, engaging format to make learning effective and enjoyable. I would also love you to check out my upcoming ebook, In Depth on Technical Debt. This ebook will go far beyond what we covered today, providing detailed insights, frameworks, and practical steps for managing technical debt at any scale. The first 20 people to grab the ebook will receive special bonus. And of course, I'm available if anyone needs help or consultation on technical debt in their projects. I work with engineers and companies to tackle those challenges, and I am happy to be involved. Now, let's talk about the ebook. Before we wrap up, I want to take a moment to introduce the upcoming ebook. I truly believe it's a valuable extension of today's webinar, designed to help you take what we've discussed even further and apply it in a structured way. If you are like me and like to know exactly how things work, you may be interested in this piece. I share over 10 times of technical debt there, practical tips to how to deal with each debt type, extended checklists and process templates, and more. And to wrap things up, here are 3 key takeaways from this webinar. Technical debt is inevitable, but it can be managed. Every real-world project involves shortcuts and trade-offs, and that's okay. The key is to be aware and keep it under control. So tracking, prioritization, structured debt reduction are essential. In other words, monitor and measure your debt, prioritize what's most important, and constantly pay it down. Also, align technical and business goals. This is crucial. Technology and business must be on the same page regarding technical debt. IT teams shouldn't clean up code while business considers it a waste of time. Decision makers need to understand that paying off debt is investment in faster, more efficient development in the future. And at the same time, the technical team must also acknowledge the business. Sometimes delivering feature on time is more critical, and some debt must be temporarily accepted. I hope that after this webinar, you agree that managing technical debt is worth it because it's an investment in faster, cheaper, and more sustainable development processes in the future. Thank you. Now, here's the time for our Q&A. Okay, we have very shy audience today. Okay, it was a pleasure to host this webinar for you. I hope I will see you next time. Bye-bye.